Hey all you techies, welcome to the Teaching with Tech conference, and this specific session is going to be all about Google Forms and how to use them in our classrooms for assessing students. It's not going to be just that though, so we are going to talk about how you can assess, we'll talk about quizzes and tests, we'll talk about how you can create exit tickets, but there's so many more things that you can do with Google Forms and using that information and data in a meaningful way in your classroom. So hopefully this session is exactly what you're looking for. Hopefully you'll learn a thing or two, and any questions you have throughout, by all means, make sure you're asking, and let's get started. Here we go. All right, so let's jump right in here and let's get started with talking about where to go and what to do to get started with Google Forms. So this right here is the Google Forms main page. This is going to be at, you can go to forms.google.com to access this, or you can go up to your little waffle and Forms is in there as well. So totally up to you, however you want to get there. When you use it, if you haven't used Forms before, you're not going to see all of these things down here. These are previous assessments and previous things that I have created to use with my students. Up at the top is what you will see. So you're going to see blank, and then there's some other types of forms in there. Now, I do want to say that I am not using my school account right now. I'm using my my personal account. So the template gallery is going to be a little different when you log in as a teacher. You're going to see some templates that just will meet your needs as a teacher. So for the sake of time right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on blank, and we'll start touring around a little bit to show you what it looks like. So when you first start a form, this is what you're going to see. Pretty basic form. There's nothing really there except for a couple of pieces that you need to start filling in. So first of all, up in the top left-hand corner, right up here, this is going to be your the title. It's connected to this. So if I say that I'm going to make this an addition test, you'll see that it automatically puts addition test up here in the corner as well. Okay. Now you're going to have the form description. So typically what I'm going to do if I'm going to type in, if this is a test, truly a test, I'm going to type in, you know, good luck. And apparently I spelled that wrong. There we go. Good luck. Try your best and take your time. Okay. All right. So you can type in whatever you want there, but you can see the point. Sometimes I do put in there because these are online assessments. What I typically do is I'll give kids a piece of paper anyways, because it is important to me that I am going to receive, you know, I want to see what they can actually do on paper as well. I want to see their work. So with that being said, right down here on the right underneath that is going to be your first question. So that first question, typically I'm going to put in name. Now notice what happens when I put a name, it automatically changes the type of the question to a short answer. It is because that is what it's going to be. It is going to be short answer. So that is typically the first thing I'll do here. I am going to say that's required, so the kids do need to make sure that they put in their names there. Before we go any further, I want to show you a couple of the settings that are important to us. So up here in the top right corner, you're going to see the little gear, and that is something that I'm going to push now and show you what it is. So when I click on that, there's three tabs. So you have general, presentation, and quizzes. So if I click on quizzes, I want to make this a quiz. That is a new feature. It's not too old from Google Forms that Google put in there to help us out with using forms in the classroom. So you do want to make sure that you check that box that is make a quiz. Make this a quiz. You have a few different options down here as well. So release grade. Do you want the kids to be able to see it immediately after each submission, or do you want to wait until later after that they have the manual review, after a teacher looks at it? So you have the choice there of how the students see the grades. Underneath that, you have respondent can see missed questions, correct answers, and point values. Depending on the assessment, depending on the quiz, depending on what you're using this for, you could change that up. But right now, I'm going to turn off correct answers and missed questions. So I just want kids to be able to see the point values at this point. Presentation. You have the options in here to show your progress bar, to show how far they are into this. Shuffle the question order if you have any inkling that maybe your kids are looking at each other's Chromebooks or devices. You might want to turn that one on. That helps out a little bit. And show link to submit the response. In this situation, I don't want my kids to be able to do that. I don't want my kids to be able to submit another response after they're finished. Confirmation message. This one is going to be after they're totally finished. So when they're finished with their form or the assessment, they are going to be able to they'll see whatever you write here. So we can just say thanks for trying your hardest. Okay. All right, and then general over here, so you have limit to 1 response. This does require a sign-in, but if you're a school, it doesn't matter. The kids are going to be signed into their account anyways. Collect email addresses, you don't need to do that one either. And then respondents can edit after they submit or see a summary charts and text responses. So totally up to you. This I can't tell you what to choose here and what to select because typically it is really dependent on what type of assessment or what sort of form you're setting up for your class. Okay. All right, so now that we have that, let me show you one more cool feature. So right up here is customize themes. So you have a couple of options up here. So you have theme options. You can change the color of the entire page. So you can see if I change it here, or you can choose an image. The images are actually really cool. And sometimes I do change these just because the kids kind of have fun with these. There are some work and school. If you scroll down a little bit here, you'll see that there's a bunch of different things in there, depending on maybe what type of assessment it is, if it's science or social studies or math, if it's music. There's a bunch of different ideas in here. So just for right now, I'm going to go with this one since it has coffee in it, and coffee is the best as a teacher. So we are going to, that's going to set the theme. You also can change the background color as well. Fonts, you can change the fonts if you want to. I typically leave it as the basic because I think that most students are able to read that basic font. Okay, so now that we have turned on the quiz function in the settings, you'll notice a couple other things pop up here. So there is an answer key. For this one, I don't want an answer key because it is the name and I want it to, there is no correct answer. And also I want to make sure that it's worth 0 points. So it's not grading that question because the rest of the questions that we add in are most likely going to be graded. So right now I'm going to go to the little plus sign right here and I'm going to click on that and notice that it puts that question after my initial question. So at this point, I can start typing in those questions. So I'll say just to show us what it would look like, we can say 23, let's say 23 minus 2 equals. Okay, so now you have a couple of options here. So you can do a short answer, paragraph, multiple choice, or check boxes. There's some other, or drop down, I suppose. But some of these other things you definitely, you could use in the classroom, but the top few here are the ones that I use most often. So let's say that we want this one to be, let's say that we want it to be drop down. So we're going to put in a few answers, maybe 3 answers that are incorrect and one of them that is correct. And then I'm going to show you the process there. So 23 minus 2, let's say 25, just in case they added them. Let's go with 21. So we'll say that's the real answer. We'll say maybe we'll do 46. Maybe they were going to accidentally multiply that one. And then also let's just do 20. All right. So now we have those 4 options here. I do want this to be a required question once again. And now I'm going to click on this little blue box over here. It doesn't look like a link, but it is. So if we click on that, it opens this. So first of all, I need to make sure that I'm choosing the correct answer. And yes, you can add more than 1 correct answer. So if you have some sort of question where it is, it is maybe there are 2 or 3 different answers that are correct, you can definitely select more than 1. So I'll go ahead and do that. Notice that it turns green, and I'm going to make this a 1-point question as well. If you would like, and I don't do this with all of my assessments, but if you do the add answer feedback, you can type in there and explain to students why it is correct or why the one they selected is not correct. So that is there if you wanted to give that feedback. So I'm going to leave it as this, and now I want to show you what this would look like. So there's a little eyeball up here. So as you're doing this, as you're creating your assessments or you're creating your anything in Google Forms, you can click on that, and it's going to show you what the students would see. So this is exactly what students would see, with the exception of the little pencil up here. The little pencil means that you have editing access to the Google form. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to type that in. So these are all required questions. And notice 23 minus 2 is here, and I can do the drop down because that's the type of question that we wanted for this one. And I can go ahead and click the correct answer, and then I could submit that. I'm not going to do that right now, but that's what students would be able to do. Let me go back over here. I want to show you a couple of other things here. So first of all, you can add another question by pushing the plus sign. Right below that, you can add a title and description. So if you wanted to add, maybe you have different types of questions. Maybe you have a part 1 and a part 2, and the part 2 questions require a short answer response. Well, you could put in the text description, and it's not a question. It's simply just you adding information as a teacher. So you could say in part 2, please make sure that you answer the questions and you back up your, you back up your answers or something along those lines. To delete a question, you can go ahead and push the little trash can, and there is an undo. So over here in the bottom corner is that undo button. So I can click on that. It doesn't last forever. So if you make a quick mistake, go ahead and push undo, and it'll put that back there for you. There is a duplicate box as well. So if I click on this, it duplicates my question. So maybe for this one, I'm going to do 30 minus 5. And for this one, I am going to say we're going to do we'll do a multiple choice for this one. And you'll see, let's just go ahead and we'll keep it at 25 for this one. We'll do 20, we'll do 35, and we'll just do 3 for that one. Okay. So before I go any further, I just want to be very clear here. There is, if you see this, if you hover over one of those, there is a little picture. If you click on that, you can add a picture. So if you wanted to, there are some type of questions that kind of lend themselves to this, like if you're doing a fractions assessment. Maybe you're saying up here which fraction shows 1/4, and you have fractions downloaded on your computer as clip art. You could put in four different fractions, and one of them is going to be that 1/4 as the correct answer. So you have a couple of options there as well. Notice the same thing. So it's the opposite here, but if I wanted to, I could add a picture in for the question itself. So we'll go over that in just a couple of seconds here, but that is an option as well. All right, so let's see. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to the answer key again. And let's go 25. Notice that both of them are selected, so I need to deselect the second one that I had for the last question. And here's my assessment that the students would see. So with that being said, we have 2 questions. You can add as many as you want to or as few as you want to. It's really up to you, whatever you would like to do. There is one more thing that I want to show you before we move on to different types of things here. So this right here is a section. So you can add a section in, and this actually is going to be on a separate page altogether. So we're going to say that this is, we'll say it's part 2, and I want to add a question underneath it. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. Let's go ahead and let's duplicate this, and let's move that down underneath. So now I want to show you what this is going to look like to students. So notice there's only 2 questions here, so I do need to make sure that these are required questions. So I am going to go ahead and choose the correct answers and go to next. And now notice what happens. When I click on next, it goes to the next page. So when you add in this little guy right here, the add section, that is basically going to make it on a separate page. That's awesome for maybe your students with IEPs. I know a lot of my IEPs that a lot of students that with an IEP that I've had in the past, they have, chunking on their IEPs, which means that, they need very little on a page, and that's helpful to those students. So this is a really simple way to make sure that not everything is on one page and it's not too overwhelming for them or for anyone else for that matter. It's kind of nice to have them broken up on each one of the pages. And if you selected let's see here, if you selected the show progress bar, it would show the kids the percentage of the way they are through the assessment. Okay, so sometimes that's nice for the students to know, like, hey, I have this much more to go. I'm going to take my time and do my best. Or they're going to rush through. So those are the basics of Google Forms here. So I'm going to show you a few other examples, that have been created already. So this is one that I have already created. Typically, and I do want to mention this, typically when I make my assessments, I do a pre-test and I also do a post-test as well. It's fairly simple, because if you make one, you can basically use that same one for your post-test and just tweak around the questions a little bit and make the things just a bit different for the students, but it's about the same. So at least you can compare the results of the pre-test and the post-test. And going in with the pre-test, knowing where the students are, obviously. So this is just a quick example of this is a post-test of word problems. So you can see here, we added in some pictures. Not that it really had anything to do in this situation. It didn't have anything to do with with the question, but it was just, it went along with the theme of the question. So this is what a test would typically look like. This one had a total of 10 questions. All right, so something else that we want to have a quick conversation about is an assessment. And this, it doesn't technically need to be an assessment. Maybe you have some task cards. Maybe you have something that you want to give to students. Then you want to make sure that they're correct. So basically what we would do is you have a way in Google Forms where the students can't submit unless the answers are correct. I've done this in a few different ways in my classroom. So I've said, okay, here you go, guys. These are some practice problems, and the questions need to be correct. If they cannot figure it out by themselves, then I tell the kids, you know what, go off and maybe a buddy can help you with the questions that you're not getting right. And the buddies are explaining and kind of tutoring and helping the students through that. So how you would do this is as follows. Here's a question. So it was 54 plus 3, and the answer 57. So we want to do short answer. So they have to type in the answer. Then there's these little dots down at the bottom here, and it says response validation. When I turn that on, actually I think I just turned it off. So when we say that we want to turn that on, we want to say, there's a few different options here. This is going to be a number. It needs to be equal to, and I'm going to type in 57. The custom error text. So if the students get it wrong, you can type in a text, type in the answer, whatever you want here. So I'm going to say, try again. Right, so let me show you what this looks like. So now we're going to jump over to the preview. So this one we didn't put a name in, so we would have to go back and put a name in there as well. But anyway, so we have 43 plus 43, and if we type in 86, there's nothing there. But if I type in a different answer, notice what happens here. It does say try again. And same situation here. So let's say 57. So that one it shows as being correct. And now we would be able to submit. If I don't have them correct and I try to submit, it's not going to work. So they're not going to be able to submit their work unless they have all of the answers correct on that specific assessment. Okay, so that is called, this is called response validation. There's a few different things you could do there as well, such as text, a length, or a regular expression. So there's more that you can do here for sure. But typically, you know, with my third graders, I'm just using a number or text there to do this. This is also really cool. If you do any classroom escape rooms, this is a great way to have them solve. So you can create a Google form, and then from there you can have them go off and complete a few different activities, get the answers, and then come back here. So instead of using actual locks, you could actually use these as your digital locks, which could be a lot of fun as well. And my kids have enjoyed quite a bit. Okay. All right, so now I want to show you how to add in a picture. So this is a fraction pretest, and we have a question down here already. And it says, what fraction is shown? So I'm going to add in a picture, and this pops up. You have a few different options here. You can upload. You can take a snapshot by URL if you know the URL of a specific image, your albums, Google Drive, or a search. I have some clip art here already, so I'm just going to jump down and grab something and drag it in. And it does appear that it is quite large, so you can resize those. And so what fraction is shown? So now I'm going to make this, let's do the multiple choice. So we'll say 2/3, we'll say 1/3, and we'll say 3/3. Oh, 3/3, okay. So now same situation, I'm going to require this. I'm going to do the answer key and go ahead and select the correct answer, and we are good to go there. So that is how you would add in a picture if you wanted to do that. And just to show you what it would look like, it is this right here. Okay. All right, let's jump over. And so something else, and I get a lot of questions about this one in particular. So if you have assessments already created, like not in Google Forms, so you have, these older assessments, maybe you have assessments that you created in Word, or you created, you have a PDF of it, or you're downloading it from, the site where your math program is from, or whatever the case may be. So what I would suggest is using the snipping tool for this. So in this situation, I'm going to open up, let's say that we have a passage and we want maybe it's going to be a main idea assessment. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open my snipping tool, click on new. And for this one, I'm just going to snip the first paragraph. Okay, well, actually, let's do that again because I kind of got the title in there as well, and I didn't want that. Okay, all right, so here we go. So we have just the passage. I'm going to right-click this. I'm going to save as, and I'm going to save this to my desktop, and we'll just call it main idea. I'm going to jump back over to my assessment. And again, I am going to go to that upload, and I am going to go to my desktop where I saved that. And I saved it as main idea. So I'm going to drag that inside. And there we have my passage in here. Now, I will tell you that the reason that I do it this way instead of just entering in the actual text itself is because you're not able to use formatting features like indenting and double spacing the lines. It's just easier to read if you actually have the picture in there. So you can definitely type in the question here if you wanted to. So instead of you can take all this text and actually just copy and paste it into the actual question itself. So that is something that you could do, but it's something that I find easier if we just take like a small passage and make it a screenshot and go from there. So we could say here, what is the main idea? And this time, let's make it a short answer. This time, though, maybe it won't be self-grading. I am going to say this is worth a total of maybe 3 points because we use a lot of 3-point rubrics for shorter answers. So I'm going to go back over here. And actually, you know what? I'm going to change this to paragraph because they might write a little bit more for this. For the answer key, I'm not actually going to put anything in there because for this one, it is very open-ended. The kids are going to be able to put in, whatever they want for this one. So that is what we would do if we wanted to take old assessments. Maybe you have things that are not digital already. They're just PDFs, or you have a Google Doc, or you possibly have a Word document. You could copy and paste that and put it inside of here. So I hope that's helpful, and I hope you learned a thing or two about using Google Forms. If you have any questions whatsoever, I'd be more than happy to help out. Lots of different things you can do with this, and we can talk a little bit more about some of the things we can do about Google Forms in the future, and I'll drop some things in the comments of ways that you might be able to use these as well. But this is just a basic overview of Google Forms and getting started with it in the classroom. So I hope that was helpful, and please ask all questions. Thanks. All right, well, here we are at the very end of our Google Forms video, and I just wanted to give you a couple of things that you may want to know for future reference. So first of all, right now, what I would like you to do is I want you to go over to the link up here in the corner, and I want you to take a couple of freebies. So these freebies, there's one math and one ELA assessment, just so you can kind of see how they're created, and I have a whole pack if you want to take a look at those. So use that link. You can grab a couple of those freebies there, and you could use those with your students in your classroom. And then also, if you would like to continue the conversation and see how we are going to continue using forms in new and innovative ways, and maybe in a few different ways than we talked about today, head over to this link. And this link is a Facebook group. It's called the Google Classroom Gab Group. And the Gab Group, there's over 1,500 people in there right now, and everyone is having conversations about how they're using Google Classroom, Google Slides, Google Forms to get started with their kids this year, and there's a lot of great conversation in there. So hopefully you learned a thing or two today, and I hope you're enjoying the Teaching with Tech conference, and if you have any questions, please let me know. Thanks so much.